I mean, that's something I've seen a lot too. I've been fortunate enough to not have to go through that myself, so I don't have personal experience on that front.
Hmm.
But yes, in meeting with folks over time, if they do have kids, that's certainly something a lot of people focus on, right? I'm not gonna do to my children what someone else did to me. We gotta make sure they are loved and taken care of and feel safe, and sometimes maybe even feel safe enough to make some trouble. And then
Yeah.
that's a good conversation to have, right?
Yeah. So we're back. Y'all knew we were coming back, so don't be shocked. We told you that on part one. But did you listen to part? I'm gonna put it up here somewhere on the screen, whichever side of the screen it pops up for you. So you can go to part one and you can come back here to part two. We're still with the mighty duo from Family Services in New York City, up there in the Poughkeepsie area, upstate Hudson Valley. And we're still with Miss Simone and Miss Jen. They're going to give us a little extra time to talk with them before they go back and do what they do best, which is to help support folks who are coming out of domestic violence, dealing with
Hmm.
domestic violence, and also they deal with sexual crimes. Okay, so it's not just one segment; they do a lot in the community. So they're going to hang out with us a little bit longer. But I wanted to look at this quote that we did in part one, and I did not give my 2 cents on it. So I wanted to open this part of the podcast with that. It said, it doesn't matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. So for me, when I think about this quote, the way it impacts me is really telling myself that whatever goals I have for my life, whether it's a spiritual goal, whether it is a personal goal, whether it's a professional goal, it tells me that I have all of the things I need within myself to continue to reach those goals. But it also tells me to be cautious, not to rush myself to the finish line. You hear me? We got a lot of stuff inside of us. We can get there, but sometimes we don't go slowly because we think we know it all and we want to get there tomorrow. And so when I look at this quote, it reminds me that slow and steady is still a thing. And I'm going to get there. I'm going to finish well. But if I rush too quickly, I'm going to miss some of those pit stops where I was supposed to drink some water, get some juice, and grab a banana. And if I don't stop at these pit stop, man, that finish line, I may fall before I get there. So, the not stopping is Miss Simone said that she's okay with some pauses. So the pit stop to grab the banana to get the potassium, women, y'all know we need potassium when we get older. So
Yeah.
pausing there and grabbing those nutrients that you need to continue to race. You're not stopping, you're just pausing. So that's what this reminds me is to continue to know that all that I need to be and I envision to be is in me, but do slow and steady with some pauses. That does not mean I'm stopping and make sure I go through the finish line so I can get the goal. So that's what it reminds me of. So I wanted to do mine since I didn't get to do it the last time. And we're going to jump back into the conversation. So we're going to have Miss Sounds ask her next question because y'all know she deep, 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 deep. All right. So get ready, strap in, and let's see where we go.
Awesome. Well, Jen, you said something in the last conversation that stuck with me, which kind of goes along the lines of this question about childhood traumas that sort of bleed into sort of the more adult traumas. And in some cases, there's this inner child in all of us that at some point when their needs are not met are looking for some reparenting, some parent, something. And when you look around and you may not be able to find that in your current life, in your current circumstances, you wake up one day and go, oh, I'm the parent of the child. And so, what is that aha moment like? What was that like when you've gone through some of the hardest times in your life? And where do you see that light bulb happening for some people when you're helping them? Either Simone and Jen, you can both. But yeah, the reparenting.
Well, I have had that moment, like, oh crap.
It happened just like that.
Yeah, like that's what's happening. Like I have a child now, and I have to now kind of redo what was already put in place for me and make sure that it doesn't happen again to them. And I don't know if that just takes a certain kind of mindset or a certain kind of healing or just a certain kind of awareness, but I know I didn't want my children to feel that feeling of fear or distrust or loneliness. So I was not going to give them my baggage. So, and I think like a lot of parents don't want to do that. Parents that have come through these doors don't want their children to go through what they've gone through. So I figure if they've made the step to come here to get help, they've already started that path. Like, I don't want to re-victimize somebody else.
Oh, beautiful.
I mean, that's something I've seen a lot too. I've been fortunate enough to not have to go through that myself, so I don't have personal experience on that front. But yes, in meeting with folks over time, if they do have kids, that's certainly something a lot of people focus on, right? I'm not gonna do to my children what someone else did to me. We gotta make sure they are loved and taken care of and feel safe, and sometimes maybe even feel safe enough to make some trouble. And then that's a good conversation to have, right?
Yes.
But even also folks who don't have kids, allowing yourself to, you can't really redo your childhood, but you can allow yourself to do the things that you didn't get to do, right? You can allow yourself to buy the teddy bear that you were not allowed to have. You can watch the TV show that, you would have watched as a 5-year-old, but you didn't get to, or whatever it is that makes people feel empowered and that they get to do the things they didn't get to do. They can still do those.
That's interesting, because I actually never thought of it that you can give yourself permission to experience something that was taken from you at the appropriate age. Interesting. I never thought of that. So it is wonderful to know that in this world of option that I can give myself that as a gift and celebrate it in that moment and let it be a part of me becoming a whole person, WHOLE, as I continue to figure out who I really want to be. So that's encouraging. So I really, really like that. Now, I want you guys to define what is a domestic violence situation or survivor. I just want to make sure as we're throwing that word out there that we understand from your frame, your point of reference, really what that means. I mean, that we're not just using that word recklessly. So define, and maybe it's defined by scenario A, scenario B, because I know they're all different, but is there a definition? Is it defined by a scenario versus a type of person, or help us educate us on that front?
Do you want
looking at each other, who goes first?
I know. I'm like, I don't have my paperwork in front of me. So I'm gonna kind of go off my knowledge. So it would be like an intimate partner relationship and there's many different facets of violence. So you have emotional, physical, mental, and even financial abuse that happens. And it's not something where it's a one and done situation where there's just one incident and it's done. It's something that's done slowly and intentionally to hurt the other person.
Very much. Yeah, I agree. Right. It's something that is done on purpose. They're using abuse to obtain power and control. That is what it is in the shortest form, right? When someone chooses to abuse someone else to obtain and keep power and control over that person. And like Jen said, that can look in many different ways.
So two things, because you guys said something I didn't expect. First, define abuse, because in cultural diverse populations, settings, geographies, countries, discipline and abuse can be one and the same and not recognizable and not acceptable. And I know we are talking in the Western culture, this word abuse. In your world, professional landscape, help me to understand what you classify, recognize, or define as abuse first. And then definitely talk to me about this financial abuse, because I didn't know that was a thing. And I'm being real transparent. I just didn't know that was a thing. So I need help on both of those stratosphere if you have a moment.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were going.
I always like, I don't know.
We're so courteous to each other, people. If you're not watching this, you need to watch this. These women have high respect. Nobody jumping or stepping on anybody. I am just loving the reverence right now. Go ahead, Miss Jen. It's lovely.
And you know what? You're very right, because depending culturally, discipline can almost mirror abuse. But I think this goes back to what Simone was saying about power and control. And sometimes disciplining can look like abuse because of the excess in which it's used.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would say that I know I grew up in a household that we said it was discipline, right? And that was so that, you put constructs and a foundation so somebody understands what's right and what's wrong. Not so that one person feels bigger than the other person. That's where that power and control comes in. You're less than me, so you will do it as I say, versus I'm trying to help you navigate life so that you understand the social construct you're born into. And then as for financial abuse, that would look something like, hey, do you mind giving me your social security number so I can open up a credit card under your name? You know that my credit is poor and I really need to get these things. Now that person has a credit line of $2,500 under your name and they drag your credit through the mud. And now that they have their social security number, they're opening up multiple credit cards that you're not aware of. And so a lot of times we'll have severe survivors of domestic abuse. When they come out of it, they have no credit because their offender has run it through it and ruined it. And as we know here in New York, you need that credit score in order to get an apartment in a lot of places. So now that person has a very, very low credit score, can't get housing, can't get any kind of like financial stability because of that offender.
Wow. I never put the word financial abuse on that situation. I don't know, where have I been living? Wow. I never put it in that way. And outside of the domestic violence world for a moment, I'm going to step forward to say that I know parents growing up that have done that to their very, very, very young children, but never has anyone around me ever tagged that as financial abuse. I had a lot of people around me who did that. I mean, and so this term for me just seems new. Man. Miss Simone, any thoughts on that? I am clearly shocked because it was so normal growing up that was happening. Your parents are in charge. And as part of the family, they determine what happens to make sure this family survives. And part of that could be, well, my parents didn't do it to me. They might have realized that I was not that one, but My friends' parents would open lines of credit in their name and go forward and purchase furnitures and things of the like. But no one has ever said, I mean, I'm just now hearing this term today and I'm much older. Financial abuse. Wow. I'm shocked. I don't know. I'm really shocked. That is a thing.
It is a thing. It definitely is. And that's the thing with a lot of these forms of abuse. If we don't know that it's abuse, it might hide under regular life sometimes, right? I think your first part of the question you asked now was about discipline versus abuse. I think it's important to remember that there's a difference between discipline and punishment. And also what, like Jen said, right? What is the goal of this? Am I trying to teach someone how to live their life in a better way, if you will? But also, who am I to decide what's better for them? And if we're talking about adults, I don't know that I would say that someone you're in a relationship with gets to discipline you as much as, maybe have conversations about things or, seek guidance with you or whatever it may be, right? Because you're not their child, you're their partner. That's not the same thing, right? And I, of course, respect that different cultures have different, approaches to that. It could look different depending on where you are. But no matter what the laws are, you still have a right as a human being to be treated right. So that's something to keep in mind. When it comes to, yeah,
I like that. You're right. I like the way you put it. I feel like it's easy to swallow. The way you put it. So thank you for being compassionate.
Of course. As for the types of abuse, maybe we can send over. We have a thing called the power and control wheel. That's not ours. That's in general. A lot of places use it, but it has different sort of categories of abuse. I just pulled it up here real quick. On there is emotional abuse, economic or financial abuse, sexual abuse, using children, threats, using citizenship or resident privilege, intimidation, and isolation. There are other groups, of course, as well, but these are just the ones that popped up here. And as to add to what Jen said about financial abuse, it can be so many things. I've seen people who were not allowed to have a job so they could have income, or the opposite, they had to have several jobs because their partner wanted them to bring a certain amount of income. Or, if they had a job, they had to give all their money to their partner and then they would get certain amounts back. Or maybe they had to be a stay-at-home mom even though they didn't want to. They had to go buy groceries and then show the receipt after and give the money back that was left. And if anything's missing, that's an issue, right? So it could be a lot of different things as well on top of the credit score.
There's some subtle things that happen. I promise I've been writing these things off as everyday construct. Wow. I think I've missed some signs with even people around me because as you speak, I can see some situations where I just thought, well, that's the way that family operates.
Well, and sometimes it is. If you are sitting down and you're on the same level and you are deciding, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want my partner to be the one who's making the money and the partner wants to do that. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Where it becomes abuse is if one person decides it for both people and they're doing it to have power and control. That's when it's a problem.
Yeah, that's good. Miss Sounds, go ahead. I'm really shocked. I mean, in a very good way, take the scales out of my eyes so I can see more clearly in not only my own life, but in my community. So I thank you, but I can't downplay the shock because I don't know if I've looked close enough at some of these examples to even question if there could have been an issue. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful today while being shocked. Good, Miss Sounds.
I got two questions, but I'll ask one first and then I'll ask the one after you guys answer the first one. So my first question is, so within kind of in this post-traumatic space for a lot of people. There's this, there's ways they've learned how to cope in the trauma with their emotional discomfort and just trying to stay safe that may be brought over into their post-trauma kind of healing space. And I think within the chaos of trauma, there's this need to want order and certainty and try to fix everything so that it is predictable and that you don't have to go through the unpredictability of that anymore. My question is, in the space where you're healing, where you have brought over some of that coping that may not have been healthy, so to say, but it helped you survive. Do you believe that there is merit in mindfully coping in that same way until better, healthier ways of doing this come to mind or are exposed to you? So I ask that because there's this need to want to fix yourself and do better without passing through the curiosity of why and how did this make me feel? How did this comfort me at this one time? And how can I slowly let this go and adopt new things and that kind of thing. So can you speak to that, mindfully coping, and if there's some merit to that?
I think there is merit to it. I think one thing to keep in mind is in a lot of the time when you're in a relationship where you are being abused, the coping you're using is focused on not having a bad situation happen. Yeah. Right? You're walking on eggshells and you know, if I do this or if I do that, there's a better chance than if I do these things that an incident is not going to happen. Whereas once you are on the other side of that, your coping can be focused on you, right? If it feels better for me to do it this way, whether or not that coping mechanism is healthy, that's a different discussion. But if it makes me as a person feel better, then it's focused on me instead of focused on avoiding things from that other person.
That's good.
I think there are meaningful ways to cope. I really do. I think sometimes what happens is, like Simone was saying, when you're in that situation, you're in survival mode. So you learn what's going to keep you safe. And then once you're out of that situation now, it's like, how do I now, not necessarily in survival mode and keeping yourself safe, but how do I help myself thrive, right? How do I get to a life that I'm happy with? And it's hard to let go of those old habits sometimes. And I think people don't understand that sometimes might lead to a lot of mental health issues. And then there's avoidance of it. So that's why, I think the trauma-informed therapy is so important when you're in that healing process, so that even if you're not aware that you're going through those things or that you're having these coping skills, they might be coming from other facets, like mental health issues that are probably growing, and somebody else on the outside needs to be able to assess it and point it out to you. And there's no shame in that. We all know there should be never any stigma around mental health at all. But people do need that space, that place where they can say, these are the things I've been doing to survive. These are the things I've been doing to thrive. And doesn't always feel good. I think the reason you question is because you're realizing it doesn't always feel good, or it might be a barrier. How do I lower that? How do I get over that barrier? Or how do I just get rid of it completely? And I think that people need to feel supported and know that there is no shame in asking for mental health. I mean, even if you don't have problems, you should still seek mental health. It's okay to be like, hey, this feels good. I can tell somebody that, I have these thoughts and these feelings, and there's no shame.
That's so good. So good. As a follow-up to that, sort of, but also kind of deviating a little bit, but do you feel like there are times where your healing will be tested? And does it manifest in big ways all the time? Or are there moments where there's the small things that point you to some of these deeper issues?
I know for me, I suffer with social anxiety. The grocery store is the worst place on earth for me some days. There's just too much noise. There's too many people. And I just can't, lights, the noise. It's just not a good time. And I know where that comes from, what that stems from. And, like I said, mental health is important. So, I mean, I'm working through those things. I think as long as we say that it's okay to be uncomfortable and recognize that you're uncomfortable, now how do you want to get to a point where you are comfortable? I think people just need to have that space to say, yeah, I am uncomfortable, but I want to not be that.
I think also remembering that healing is not something you do and then you're done, right? It continues. And it doesn't mean that you have to turn into this human that's just never, ever feeling anything bad again. You can be healed, so to speak, and still experience things. An example from my life is apologizing a lot for nothing, right? I think a lot of us that have gone through some kind of trauma probably experienced that. I want to add on there kind of also just being women a lot of the time, even if we haven't experienced specifically trauma, growing up in certain ways, in certain, cultures or social settings that, oh, if I can just apologize before something happens, then I can avoid that. Again, it's that avoidance kind of. And I feel that with myself when I get stressed out or if I have relationship stuff going on, even if it's in a healthy relationship, I immediately jump back to that. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry I exist. Oh, I'm so sorry I stepped out of bed with the wrong foot first. Oh, I'm so sorry I forgot to, whatever it is, some little thing that doesn't matter. So that could be another example.
That's, whoa. I feel so full and light at the same time. Yeah. The knowledge is amazing. And so I'm full on the knowledge you guys have given, the clarity, the redefinition of some things. And then I feel light that you guys are so passionate about this work that regardless of what you have experienced, you continue to expose yourself so that others can walk upright, head up, and keep going. So I'm feeling full and light at the same time. And I'm feeling like there is a lot of promise and choice and opportunity when we have you two soldiers in the field, because it's one thing to turn on the news and hear these stories that are so far away from you as the person viewing it. It's another thing when you have programs such as your program that exists that says this problem is not in California and Idaho and somewhere else. It's right here. It's here where you live. It's in your part of New York. It is 20 minutes away from you. It is 15 minutes away from you. So I am so grateful for you guys today. If I had not expressed that before, I express it now. I am in awe. I am grateful. I am happy that you guys are equipped, capable, and still making the choice, whether you feel equipped or not, to go forward and to give not only this knowledge, but to do this work. We're going to come down to a bit of a lighter for a moment. And we are going to play the RV word match game. This is brand new for us. And what this game is I am going to give you a primary word and I'm going to give you 2 secondary words. You are to match your primary with one of the secondary word, and you are to give a message out to anyone listening that is specifically in a domestic violence situation or leaving one. So it is not for everybody in the audience. It is for a specific audience. And so we will start with Jen first, Miss Simone, and then Miss Sounds. So the primary word is bold, B-O-L-D, bold. And your secondary word is hope or now.
Hi.
Oh, Jen is ready. I tell y'all, Jen be ready. He does this nod that says, got it, in, let's go. In one nod. So bold is the primary word, okay? Hope and now. And you're going to use your primary word, match it to a secondary word, and you're going to give a message out to somebody who is either in domestic violence or leaving that.
Okay. My message would be, don't be afraid to be bold. Don't be afraid to be your genuine, true self. And this is the life that we have right now.
Yeah.
We have to live it. We have to live it to its fullest, which means you have to be completely and utterly and unapologetically yourself.
Mm.
So I'm just telling you, I'm going to need some water after this.
I'm sorry. Are you saying actually? Okay, sorry.
It's on you.
I think I would say that for that person who is listening, to choose which one of the secondary words they want to add to it, right? You can choose to be bold now if you're ready. You know, this is your time. When you feel ready, you're ready. If you don't feel ready yet, you can still have hope. You don't have to give up. Doesn't mean it's not going to come. It's just not yet.
See, I love y'all.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we just going to twist it up. Okay. Miss Sounds.
So I don't want to. I don't want to remove. That was a great Simone, because there was so much choice in there, and I don't want to remove anyone's choice because it is theirs. But I would say I would choose bold in the sense that boldness is the ability to assess and vocalize your needs now.
Mm-hmm.
It's in situations that feel shameful, kind of close in on yourself and may not feel embarrassed to share. It may feel embarrassed to share that or share what you may need. And boldness is sort of this vulnerability to say, I need help. And it can happen now.
Ooh. Y'all look good. Okay. Now we go to the second primary word is find, F-I-N-D, find. And your 2 secondary words will be clear, C-L-E-A-R, and light, as in light of the world, L-I-G-H-E. So find, primary, clear, and light, secondary.
Who's going first?
It's Jen. She's searching. I love her. I love her expression.
It's fine. if things aren't always clear, right? Maybe everything isn't defined, and that's part of the journey of life, right? Figuring out what's going to be, that's the adventure, right? Not knowing that there's a plan just set up for you. Maybe it's fine that things aren't always clear because it gives you room to grow and figure out what is going to be fine for you.
Okay. Simone.
Yeah, can I get the 2 words again? It was light and
So we have clear, as it's a clear day, and light, as in light of the world or light up the room.
Those are good words. Oh, yeah. But there's a light in yourself, right? And again, this might be kind of attached to the one we just had, but it's fine to find out what that light is in you and where it's at, right? Is it a whole candle that you just lit and it can burn for hours? Or is it on its last, 10 minutes of flame? Check in with yourself and see where are you right now. And that's okay. Not judge yourself for wherever you are on that.
Yeah.
You guys are so good at this game. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
I would say continue and or start the work to find you again, and then clear the way because she is not going back or he is not going back.
Oh my goodness. So good. Final word. Know. K-N-O-W, as in to know a thing. And we're going to go to the word move and now. So know, to know a thing, is our primary word, and move and now are your secondary words. Jen just creates the scenarios in her head, and then she's just going through the index. I see it. Not that one. Okay, let's.
What was the other word? It wasn't now, it was the other one.
Move, M-O-V-E, move, and then now, N-O-W, and primary word is know, K-N-O-W, to know something.
If we're going to stay with the theme of domestic violence,
yes,
I would say, as an advocate and somebody who works with, survivors, trust what they know. They know their situation. They know when it's going to be time for them to go. They're going to know when it's time for them to stay. They know their situation. And trust that it's probably not now. It might, you have to be okay as an advocate, somebody who works with survivors of domestic violence. You have to trust that they know their situation and know that it might not be right now. And that's okay.
that's big.
I think another part to that is knowing what the moves are, what options are there, right? Before you make that decision, sometimes, well, a lot of the time, probably it's a good idea to think about, what are my options? What do they look like? How can I do those things? What does that mean for me? What does it mean for my children if I have children? What does this mean for everything in life? So taking a look at that and gathering that knowledge before making the big move.
I would say in the move from shame to self-forgiveness, I would say you know more now than you knew before.
Where's the mic? I can't drop this one. I need another mic. Excellent. All right, future risers. So that was the RV word match. We want to really start to bring storytelling and messages, direct messages to you, our audience. And so that's why we have these games, is actually to just personalize these messages so that you understand that we are taking this very serious. We're being careful, cautious, but still making sure that the messages that need to go out, not just the broader conversation, but to dial it in and really bring it in and hit some targeted moments that we're doing that, and that we're allowing our guests to participate in doing that. So thank you guys for playing the first ever RV word match. You guys did brilliant, of course. Y'all took it to the PhD level, right? So I thank you guys. So we are going to have Miss Sound talk to us about the last segment, and this is Rise and Fall. This is where we kind of bring things home before we say sayonara to the people. So Miss Sounds will explain it in the awesome way she does, and then we will all participate. We'll have Miss Sound lead Rise and Fall. She'll start first. We'll go to Miss Simone, to Miss Jen, and then I'll finish out the broadcast for us today.
All right. Well, ladies, it was a wonderful time talking to you, and I don't want it to end because I just feel like the environment is it's ripe with so much vulnerability, so much truth, so much empowerment. But we have to end it today on Rise and Fall, which is our ending reflections of the conversations that we've had. And what we split the reflections into is one, rise, which is after the conversation today, what resonates with me that I'll continue to let rise in my life. And then fall, which is what do I still struggle with in terms of my beliefs about things? And now after this conversation, it's reminding me to kind of go back to some of these some of these clearer ways of thinking about it. So I will start first, where I will let rise in my life self-acceptance. I think that it's a powerful, like I said, balm for traumatic memories, traumatic, just inner workings that are still seeking to fracture me. I think that self-acceptance is that reminder that I'm human and that there are more people experiencing what humanity, the rise and fall of humanity along with me. So I'm interconnected. So that's what self-acceptance gives me. And then for fall, I would say that there are instances that in my life that make me feel like my choices are limited sometimes. And sometimes that, in working through different traumas, you think that your choices are limited to one way, but I'm going to put that to rest and remind myself that choice variety is my portion.
I think if it's okay, I would like to start with the fall. Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. I think for me personally, but also out of the things we talked about, it can sometimes be upsetting, I suppose, to see all these people go through these things and to feel like sometimes, what are we going to do about this? This is so much negative stuff, right? For the people living it specifically. And if we add in little thing we also talked about earlier about cultures and countries and parts of the world that someone might be listening to this or watching this, from somewhere where these things are even harder to do something about. I think the rise to that would be that we do see change, right? We see change all the time. We see change individually for the clients that we work with. A lot of them end up in better situations, right? It might take a couple tries. It might take some time and a lot of effort and energy and sometimes tears, but you can still see them get to a better place a lot of the time. And when it comes to, again, the cultural stuff and the different places where folks are from, If we look at ourselves, if you go far enough back, we had the rule of thumb, which was that a man could, hit his wife with something that wasn't bigger than his thumb. And we do not have that rule anymore, right? We have worked our way up to where we are now. We're certainly not done yet, but we're working on it. So change is possible.
Beautiful.
Booty. I'm going to let experience rise. Right. It's the lived experience. I always feel like you can go to school, you can learn how to say something, but there's nothing like a lived experience. It really will define who you can be, who you will be, and who you're going to touch in life, So I respect greatly a lived experience. What I will let fall is yesterday. I will always say you can't change the past. You can't. And if you stay stuck in it, you never can be on that path, right? Even if you got to go slow, you'll never be on that path. And you can't walk that path if you're always still stuck in yesterday. So.
Wow. Well, risers, let me tell you something. If you won't respect today's conversation, I'm going to do it for you. That's how full and happy I am on this. I would say for me, my rise today is to continue to be a lifelong learner. Never saying that I have arrived, but always open to arriving. And that's just based on conversation of today. I've had some things redefined. And so I no longer want to say, yeah, I've arrived. I want to just keep arriving and keep open and keep learning and keep listening. So that's my rise, just to stay open. And my fall would be really to stop having strict parameters around certain words that mean differently in different situations. So the financial abuse was one, right? I thought I knew what that was. I had a very strict definition boxed in of what that was, and learning today that it is much more than that. So I want to bury and put in the grave having these very strict definition of words that live differently depending on where they're growing, good or bad, and not have that strict parameter all the time, right? So listen, we have had an amazing time with both of you, Miss Simone and Miss Jen from Raised Voices. We want to say thank you. We want to salute you for the work that you continue to do. We want to send love, hugs, blessings, prayers, support. Let us know how we can be in the community helping. We're going to thank you for your time, for your passion, but most of all, for me personally, your courage. What you do is nothing light, and it's even heavier than we really do know. And yet you carry it, and you show up to carry it again and again. So a big thank you from Raised Voices, from our audience. This will go international. And so we just thank you in advance. And future risers, please show some respect, show some love, show support, show up, subscribe, comment. Keep it positive. Tell us what you've learned. Tell us if you heard something that has redefined something for you. Tell us what your takeaway is. Tell us what you're going to use and how you're going to use it. That's what we ask you for. We want this to be a safe place. We want it to be a positive place. We want it to be a place that there's education. And yeah, we will have fun, right? We are alive. We're all survivors here in one way or the other. We're on the other side. And so we're going to laugh. We're going to have humor. But it does not take away from the seriousness of what we bring. So we thank you guys for continuing to listen. Keep praying for us that we bring more content that touches you, content that's relevant for your life, content that tells you to get up and do something because only you can do it. You are needed. You are special. Oh my gosh, you are needed. You are special. You are needed. You are special. We don't have to see your faces to know who you are. You don't have to be personally connected to us. We just know you're needed and we know you're special. And as we say, we will continue to believe it until you do. Be empowered. Stay encouraged. Live a simple life, but do it with intentional proactivity. Because it's your life and we can't do it for you. But we can remind you to get up and go. We love you. Come back to the next conversation. Have a brilliant day, guys. Bye.
Bye.